Hey everyone, Radical Dreamer Steve back at you with another gaming video, and this time we're looking at Zelda Skyward Sword. Yep, I'm replaying this game now and about 20 hours in, and I'm not really in a rush to beat it, but I did beat the Wii original about 10 years ago, and so I wanted to dedicate this video to sort of being my opinion on what has changed, and not just with the game, but also me as a player, going from a 23-year-old university student who's a bit more naive to being a 33-year-old man with a little more knowledge on the world and the Zelda series, actually. So this is sort of what's changed and what stayed the same. 10 things. Number one, I gotta go to the graphics first. The graphics are really starting to show their age a bit. I remember seeing this on the Wii and being like, wow, this game looks really good. The graphical style was a bit more akin to a game like Zelda Wind Waker. And for me, that was really cool because I love the graphics in Wind Waker. I know that was kind of controversial, but I loved them. And when I'm playing this game now, it still looks pretty good and I can still see what they're going for graphically. However, there are a lot of kind of bland textures that look like they would come straight out of an N64 game like GoldenEye or Ocarina of Time. A couple examples are the windmills and Skyloft. They look like butt, let's just be honest. And the crawl spaces, when you go inside, the textures literally just remind me of like when I'm crawling in the vents in a couple of those levels in GoldenEye for the N64. So graphics and aesthetics are still really cool in Skyward Sword. I really dig it, but they could have touched up some of the stuff. I'm not complaining. I don't really care about graphics that much, but I did notice it, and it is something that is noticeable at many different points throughout the game. All right, number two is, this is actually maybe my favorite, the flying loft wing music. So when you're flying around the cloud area in Skyward Sword on your loft wing, there's this kind of epic symphonic music that's playing, and it really feels like Nintendo is just like, you need to like this part. It's so cool. You're flying around on this loft wing. And it's just not cool. Flying around is actually pretty boring. There's really not much to do. You just tap the X button to go a little faster or something. But it really feels like Nintendo wants you to like this part more than you actually will. And it's one of the lamest parts of the game, I gotta say. And it feels like there should just be like elevator music or something like Kenny G playing, not that symphonic music that's playing in the background. When I was 23, I really liked it. I remember being like, yeah, this is awesome. This is so epic. And now I'm kind of like, this is sort of cheesy and lame, and I don't like flying around the loft wing. I feel like there should be like a fast travel or something, but oh wait, you have to buy an amiibo to unlock that. All right, number three. The motion controls still feel largely the same. I might have just bad memory here, but I remember playing on the Wii Motion Plus controllers and not really having that many issues. Some issues, but not that many, and the Joy-Cons honestly don't feel that much better. There's still a lot of imprecise swinging, there's times where I want to roll a bomb and I throw a bomb, and all kinds of little motion control issues. I would say the motion controls work probably 80 to 90% of the time as you want them to, but that 10 to 20% chance of them not really working out the way you want can really cause ample frustration, and I don't know. It does bug me from time to time. Well, probably more often than time to time. Just frequently enough where it interrupts the game, but at the same time, I'm still fascinated when they work well. Like, controlling the beetle is still so much fun. It's such a cool item in Skyward Sword, and when the combat, when your swings are recognized correctly and you kind of get the hang of how you're supposed to actually swing the Joy-Cons, it is really cool, but I don't know. I just don't see a huge upgrade here. Maybe I just don't remember the Wii Motion Plus controls as well as I think I do. Number four, Fire Feet is admittedly less annoying. I think Nintendo is absolutely brilliant here in making Fi basically an option. Like, yeah, she will jump out of your pocket during certain story segments or when there's a new area, but you really don't even ever need to interact with Fi unless you want to. And that's a huge change from the original game. In the original game, she's constantly pestering you, but the Motion Plus controls running out of battery, random statistics about items you pick up, and she was probably the most frustrating sidekick in Zelda history. This is pretty much 100% remedied in the Switch version, so this is a great change, and Nintendo definitely gave the player way more agency and control over how they want to play the game. Fi will no longer hold your hand. And yes, I'm calling her Fi. That's what I've always called her. Fi just sounds, I don't know, should be F-E-E or something. Fi. All right, number five is portability. Now, the Switch, of course, that's a huge selling point for a lot of games. I was excited for the regular controls. I was like, yes, I don't need to play with motion controls. I can play this game more like a classic Zelda game. Nintendo sort of did this, but they've really made it a second-rate option. It is not really an optimal way to play at all, especially when you're handheld. First of all, you don't have a 360 camera anymore, which is mind-blowing. I don't understand this. Like, you have to use the right stick to control the camera and the combat, and it feels just a little bit clunky. Like, I just don't understand why they couldn't, like, optimize the control scheme a little bit more. Like, I will say, if you keep using it, you can get used to it, and it's not a deal breaker by any means, but I definitely still think the motion controls are the optimal way to play, and I don't think Nintendo capitalized on the Switch's portability nearly as much as they could have, because I don't know, I don't usually want to play this game portably. I find it much more comfortable with the motion controls on a big screen, and maybe that's just my opinion, but I think they kind of messed up here. Number 6 is my Zelda ranking. This one's more personal. When I played the original on the Wii, it was actually a top 5, maybe even top 3 Zelda for me. I really, really liked it. I don't know, just got sucked into it and just really enjoyed it. And I ranked it as high as even games like, Twilight Princess and Majora's Mask, which are really beloved. Now that I'm replaying it, I just think I have to rank it a bit lower. It's just not quite as good as I remember it. And I still think that this game is very much a hostage to the technology, and it can never really run 100% optimally. Anyway, this game for me, it's not the worst Zelda. I think people that rank this as like the absolute worst Zelda, like, you're crazy. Like, this is way better than like Zelda 2. But like, it's a mid-tier Zelda. It's in the middle of the pack somewhere. It's not one of the best, but I don't think it's one of the worst either. It's definitely worth playing. Number 7 is temples are still amazing. Yes, I think Skyward Sword has some of the best temples in any Zelda game. And there's really not any temple in this game that makes me enraged or makes me feel overwhelmed or makes me just angry. So, some of the Twilight Princess Zelda dungeons really dragged on. You have annoying dungeons like the Water Temple in Ocarina of Time. And even there's one in Breath of the Wild. I forget which one irked me, but one of those dungeons really just frustrated me. But the temples in Skyward Sword are really cool. They have good designs. They really use the items you pick up well. They're a good length. They take maybe like an hour to 2 hours, and they're not overwhelming. They're not too short. And I think these dungeons still really hold up because I'm enjoying them all. I'm back to the Ancient Cistern now, which is maybe the best dungeon in the game, and I've loved every dungeon so far. So temples or dungeons, I keep calling them dungeons, temples, they're still amazing. I think that I loved them 10 years ago, and I still love them now. And I think they are really probably the best aspect of Skyward Sword. All right, number 8 is all the crap that's between the temples. Yes, there's so many fetch quests in this game. And I find it really frustrating. It's like, oh, go douse and find this item. Okay, you did that. Go back up to Skyloft and fix this thing. But to fix it, you need to go back down to the regular world. And then you need to do more dousing and more dousing and more dousing and more dousing. And I just don't really find the dousing to be all that interesting of a mechanic. And then there's also stuff like, the ancient sealed grounds battle against the sealed beast, the sealed king. I don't remember his name right now. But that battle is boring. Like, he crawls up there, you whack his toes, and then he falls over and you drive the spike into his head. But the whole intensity in that battle is that he's going towards the temple and you need to stop him before he makes it. So Nintendo really could have used this fight to maybe use something with the motion controls, make it more like a tower defense style. Instead, it's just a really, really bland, generic boss battle that doesn't even really offer a challenge. And I just don't care for a lot of the stuff between the temples. There is some cool stuff between the temples, don't get me wrong. I do like some of the parts, but way too many fetch quests, and it feels like there's some padding there. Okay, number 9 is the lore of Skyward Sword. When I played it 10 years ago, I don't think I realized just how important this game was to the timeline. It is the first Zelda chronologically, and I just think it's really cool that it establishes where Hyrule is, and you get to see like the place where the goddess put the people, and, the Skyloft. And I really like Zelda's role. She's not just your generic princess. I'm playing Ocarina of Time again right now, and I love that game more than Skyward Sword. But Zelda is kind of just like a generic princess, though she has some pep to her for sure. In Skyward Sword, she gets much more of a personality. She's fleshed out. She plays an important role in the game. And, for a series that's called Zelda, I like to see this character fleshed out. And I'm still waiting for let me rephrase this. I'm still waiting for a Nintendo non-CDI Zelda game that allows me to play as Zelda. I just totally butchered that, but you understand what I said. So the lore's there. I appreciate it more now than ever, especially as I'm going back and playing Ocarina of Time and hearing some of that same lore repeated. My final choice is the magic feeling that the game's supposed to give you. One of the reasons that I love Zelda games so much is that they always make me feel kind of warm and fuzzy, make me feel like a kid again, and I just love them. I can play Zelda games endlessly. I just love all of them, except for Zelda 2. I don't love Zelda 2. But I love almost every Zelda game, and they're just so well done, and they're just so charming and fun, and they're just challenging enough. They have a lot of great combat, puzzles, and I don't know. They just do it for me. They do it for a lot of people. It's probably my favorite series of all time at this point. However, I have to say that Skyward Sword left me way more with a magic feeling 10 years ago than it does now. Yes, I still enjoy it. It's a good Zelda game, but it's been knocked down a bit, and I don't know. I just don't feel as magical with Skyward Sword as I do with other entries. Like Ocarina of Time is just charming me so much more than Skyward Sword. Okay, those are my 10 kind of thoughts on what's changed and stayed the same playing this game in the decade of the original release and the re-release on Switch. Thanks for listening, and I'd love to hear your thoughts. What do you think of Skyward Sword? Did I say anything that really just triggered you, or something you totally agree with? Or what do you think's changed when you played it? And I want to say really quickly, this is my 5th or so video. I thank anyone who's listening so far. I really appreciate it. I know the first few videos are really kind of rough around the edges. I'm trying to learn how to do this, and I think the quality of my videos and the delivery is only going to get better. So I appreciate the feedback that I've heard from a few friends so far. And if you have any ideas on content you want to hear me make, please get at me. Thanks for everyone that's listening, and I can't wait to make more videos. All right, guys, see you next time. Game on.